Good afternoon. After observing the kinder planning video, I documented some observations of problems that could be addressed and the solutions for those problems. To begin with, I noticed there were a lot of unfocused behaviors, such as checking phones, sidebar conversations, a teacher going through papers while another teacher was talking, them being on the computer. There were times where one teacher was dominating the conversation and other times where multiple teachers were all talking at once. A way to fix this problem is to establish norms for the meeting. Norms should always be present and reviewed before meeting starts, and a poster should be hung in the kinder NPR room. Another problem I noticed was a lack of structure and cohesion in the meeting. I think a clearly defined agenda for meeting discussions, for example, what should be discussed and in what order, will fix this problem. Also, assigning roles for teachers during the meeting, such as timekeeper or focus monitor. And this agenda should also always be posted in the NPR room. One of the big things I noticed was the meeting was not TEAC focused. They did mention them briefly. For example, I overheard some teachers said there are a lot of them, that they've been previously gone over, but now it's a review time. And all of the focus remained on a more conceptual instruction. For example, the English side of the group decided to do space-related activities where the bilingual teachers chose something over animals. Planning should always be TEAC-based. If all TEACs have been presented, then teachers should be focused on skills that students need for first grade. They need to look at the vertical alignment, analyze data from assessments and benchmarks, and decide on remediation skills to help students prepare for their next grade level. And also determine how they're going to reassess to see if these students have gained these skills. Additionally, I noticed there were teachers discussing reading, writing, and science, also their use of crafts. I think teachers should prioritize the needs of students with a clearly defined agenda and data to focus their conversations about these skills and the learning gaps. English language arts planning should focus on reading and writing. Other subject areas and other ideas should be on a different day, and crafts should only be used to extend learning. After the 5-minute mark in the video, the English teachers separated from the bilingual teachers to begin researching resources. During a planning meeting, with the use of an agenda, all the teachers should remain together. They should be looking at benchmarks. They should be looking at data to determine what skills the students are lacking. They should look at those SEs, decompose the expectation. Look at vertical alignment so they can prioritize what the students need to know to be ready for first grade. Determine how they'll be assessed and model for each other some successful reading and teaching strategies or remediation strategies. Assigning roles for resources to be put into a central location, such as Google Drive, by a specific date is something that could also benefit to where the teachers know what they're going to be working on. I noticed that teachers used about 25 to 30 minutes looking up resources. It's important using an agenda to help teachers understand that this time is for planning what to teach, how to teach it, model examples of successful teaching, how it's going to be assessed, how will they know that they've learned it, and that resources, including anchor charts, books, and activities, can be searched for later. I also noticed that there was no data discussion observed at all. And this should be the driving force in their planning. It's important that teachers bring their disaggregated data so they can have purposeful, specific, targeted discussions about the remediation needed and the essential skills that students need to have. I observed teachers looking through concept books for high-frequency words to present. This was counterproductive because teachers should look at data to see what high-frequency words that the students still need. And after the meeting, then they can look for resources that have those needed high-frequency words, or even write stories that incorporate those words. When I was listening to more targeted discussion, I noticed that the English teachers did discuss briefly reviewing phonics, the use of Michael Haggerty phonics, but not a targeted discussion. Teachers mentioned, for example, some of my kids struggle with ending sounds, a review of CCVC words, and sight word review day, SL blends, digraphs, but the discussion was not targeted or based on student needs. In order to remediate that, teachers need to understand that at this point especially, they should be reteaching and reviewing phonics based solely on data and the student needs. And they need to find out where those misconceptions from the children are so they know how to prepare them for the next phase in their learning, which is first grade. I noticed that the teachers looked at the fourth 9-week scope and sequence to come up with ideas of what to review each day without using data to determine which skills student needs. And I think if they bring disaggregated data with them, they wouldn't have to look up things. They would know what they need to be working on and teaching. I also didn't hear any conversation of a common assessment for both English and Spanish to demonstrate mastery of any of the upcoming lessons. It's important that there is a common assessment for both languages, both classes, all classes, so you can avoid the apples versus oranges comparison of success. And this comes from data and having those data-driven discussions. I noticed closer to the end, midpoint to the end of the video, a lot of business conversations, for example, computer pickups, CBA grades, virtual students, how many number of days left till school is out began. I think it's important that teachers understand that planning discussions should occur on planning days, and non-planning discussions should occur on a separate day, business days as you will, or at the end once planning is complete if it's necessary. I did hear a comment that was a little concerning when I heard a teacher ask if they were done with planning. I think if they had a clearly defined agenda with specific and targeted expectations, that would clarify, and that question wouldn't have to be asked because it would be understood. So in summary of my observations, I noticed it was not student-centered. Teachers focus on concepts, resources, and general review. They did not focus on data to determine student needs. They did not plan for targeted intervention and remediation of skills. And of course, the conversations lacked a lot of focus and cohesion. And I think the way to correct this would be, one, as a peer facilitator, it would build relationships of trust with the teachers, knowing that any suggestions of changes in how planning is done is meant to support all of the students and the teaching of those students and the vision of the school. Obviously, we need to establish and post norms for meeting. They should always be posted and reviewed prior to each meeting. Assign jobs to teachers. Establish clearly defined planning expectations. Planning should encompass both the English and the Spanish teachers together the entire time. We need to refocus on model thinking to student-focused learning aligned with the TEKS. On vertical alignment. We need to implement backwards planning, prioritize which SEs the students need. Teachers should establish essential skills that kinder students must have before they go to first grade. And that resources and the search for those resources should be done after planning so that the researcher has a focused set of skills to guide their search. and obviously an established central location to place activities by a given date so everybody has a chance to look up them, prepare them, modify them as needed according to the needs of their particular class group. Thank you for your time.